Once or twice, that's good. How about back row here? You guys ever prayed for a miracle? All right. How about kid that snuck to 9 Square during the second song? Have you ever prayed for a miracle? Yeah, you wouldn't have caught me. How about this? How about this? I have prayed for miracles. Have you ever prayed for a miracle like this? God, if you let me pass this test, which will require a miracle, I will never what? What will you never do again? I'll do whatever you ask me, God. You ever done that? Yeah, I have too. How about this? God, if you just get me out of this situation. You guys ever been in a situation? Okay, yeah, been in a few. I'll never sneak out again. You ever done that? You guys are like, no, that's strangely specific. How about this? God, if you get me out of trouble with my parents, which will require a miracle, I'll give all my money away. And you're like, oh, how magnanimous. You have no money. Yes, God, the widow's mite. I'll do it. How about this? If you get me out of this, Lord, I'll never be on my phone again at youth group. Brad will never have to tell me to stop being on my phone if you just bring a miracle my way. Show of hands, has anybody ever prayed anything like that in their life? Thank you. Thank you. We're all friends here. You pray like this because you feel like you've been backed into a corner. That's a massive yawn by somebody. That was an impressive yawn. Thank you. I love to hear that in the introduction. Because that just makes me, I'm at a 9, I'm going straight to 10. Thank you. I'll take it. Because you feel like you've been backed into a corner and you got nowhere else to go. You ever felt like that? And so you need a miracle to get out. That's your game plan, miracle. How about this, though? Have you ever gotten a miracle and you didn't pray for it? God just delivered you? Do you want to hear a cool story about a time that God saved me? He saved my life, and I didn't even ask him to. Young guy, do you want to hear it? Or are you out now? You done? Somebody get him an espresso or something. Like God pulled me out of danger, and I didn't even ask him to do it. I always, when I was a grad student, I'd walk to class, okay? Maybe some of you, anybody walk to school? Okay, I walked to class. I didn't want to go to class. I walked to class. I'm just walking. This is how I walk to class, like that? Like cool? Like, nah, I didn't walk. And so I would always wait. There was like a final stop before I went over to the school. And I would lean up against this pole. This is good, you guys. I'm not going to lean because I'll fall down. I'd lean up against this pole, and I would just kind of recount how much I didn't want to go. It's good. It's a good mindset. And I would be like, it's going to be a long day. And it had snowed the night before. There was slush everywhere. It snowed like 20 inches a couple days prior to that. Everything was muddy. And I always leaned up against this pole at this intersection. And on this particular day, I had this feeling that said, go stand in the snowbank. Now, who thinks that's dumb? That's dumb. Why would you do that? I probably had nice shoes on. I don't want to go stand. I'm like arguing with myself. I'm like, I don't want to go stand in the mud, but whatever. And so I get off the pole, and I walked over, and I stood in the mud. And the second I stood in the mud, a car came around the corner and took the pole out. And then a bus came after the car and smashed what was remaining of the pole into the bus, right where I was standing. And I'm standing back in the snow-mud mixture going, well, dang. I think that would have been my demise. Now, show of hands, who thinks that was a miracle? Yeah, me too. What are you supposed to do with that? Like, I don't even know, right? I'm like watching, and I'm like, I think I would have died. And now my pole's gone. What am I going to lean against tomorrow? Right? God, here's my point, guys. Even when you don't ask for it, God has a redemptive plan for your life. Now, some of you hear redemptive and you're like, man, he kicked into churchy gear quick. Probably because we fake yawned that second time and they don't think I heard it. And we throw the word redemptive around a lot in church. You guys ever heard the word redemptive? Redeem, right? Let's redeem. We're redeemed, right? God has a redemptive plan for every single one of you, and it's a miracle. He has a redemptive plan for you in the back, not paying attention. You on your phone. You, yawning. You. Finally got your pens. You. All the U's up there, and even in the back, and even the guy that's still trying to think about getting back to 9 square. He has a plan for who? Thank you, those of all that flipped it to me. God protects us, and He redeems us. He makes us new. That's what redeem means. He makes me new. He makes me whole. Paul pointed that out. There's a guy named Paul in the New Testament. He wrote a bunch of books. He wrote one called Ephesians. He wrote it to this group in Ephesus, and then he called it Ephesians. Brilliant naming. And in chapter 2, I'm just going to hit the highlights. He gives them this letter. They read this. Can you imagine getting a letter like this? Hey, guys, you were dead. Awesome. You did what you wanted. Yeah. You were under the power of sin. Yes. You thought you were having fun. You guys ever think you're having fun and you're sinning? Okay, and then it went too far. Did your sin ever take you too far? I thought I could handle it. I can't handle it. You realized you were in bad shape. You tried to work your way out. You ever do that? Miracle becomes your prime plan. You were miserable. You ever get miserable in your sin? You got into even more trouble the more you tried to get out of it. This is his letter to them. You needed a miracle for your problems. Why? Well, because all hope is lost. You're dead. Everybody say dead. Dead. Dead's a problem. Dead's a problem. It's like you're leaning up against the pole and you need God to pull you back. In my case, He pulled me into the mud. Sometimes He pulls you out of the mud. But then He's like has this step back moment in verse 4. It says, but God, being rich in mercy because of the great love with which He loved us, even when we were rebelling, even when we were sinning against God, even then, even in those times, He wanted me and He saved me. That's a miracle. He saved me. He redeemed me. He pulled me back from poles. He told us to take a step back. And I'm telling you, some of you tonight, you need to listen to God and take the step back. He's trying to help you. But you see it as, well, I don't want to go stand over there. I like to stand here. Do you believe that God has a plan for your life? Give me something if you believe God has a plan for your life. Do you believe? That's good. That's good. I'm glad that we're mostly on track there. You could be thinking, there's no way God has a plan for my life. I just clapped because the guy next to me was clapping. And you've already demonstrated that you will point people out. So I just didn't want to be pointed out, honestly. I was clapping. I'm clapping. You might be thinking, there's no way God can get me out of this problem. I got a bigger problem than leaning on a pole. Anybody? I'm telling you, God has a plan for your problem. God has a plan for your problem. Anybody got problems? Anybody got problems? Nobody's got problems? This is problem-free zone? Anybody got problems? Look, can I give you something real quick that you probably already know? There are people in this room that got problems. There's people in this room that have already gotten to the verse 4 of Ephesians 2. They're already redeemed. They're already Christians. They're Jesus followers. And they got problems. Do you hear me on that? Can I just get a little survey of the room? Anybody in here a Jesus follower and still got problems? Thank you. Good. How about this? Why? Everybody look at their hands. Look at their hands up. Why? I thought it was easy street once you received Jesus as your Lord and Savior. I'm confused as to why you still have problems. Why do you have problems? I thought it would be easy. How about anybody in here, maybe they're a new believer. Anybody in here been a believer for more than 10 years? Can I see your hand? Oh, my goodness. Good. A lot of people. That's good. Can you just be honest with the other folks? Maybe one or two of you would just like to stand up and say, I got problems. Anybody want to just be honest? Well, I got problems. Wait, but you've been a Christian for more than a decade. We're supposed to be looking up to you. And dare I say, even though God has protected you from cars and buses and things probably in your life, and performed miracles in your life, obviously one of the miracles is He took you from being dead to alive. You're telling me you still got problems? Huh. Is it because maybe sometimes just sort of things go rough and you start thinking about your old ways and it starts to look a little attractive to you? Do you ever kind of miss your sin? It was fun, wasn't it? Can I get some honesty in the room? Sometimes you don't really think that God has a plan for your problem. You think you're too deep into it. And that is a huge part of the redemptive story of the entire Bible. The entire story of the church is stories about men and women. Some of them are believers. Some of them become believers. Some of them believers a long time, and they still got problems. Because the evil one doesn't give up on you. God never gives up on you. And the evil one doesn't either. In fact, there's a whole group of people in the Old Testament, they lived like that in this cycle of, man, this is awesome. We got problems. Man, this is awesome. We got problems, right? We find them in the book of Exodus. Book of Exodus. Exodus is about what? Exiting. That's it. But specifically the Israelites. The Israelites had problems. Say they had problems. Thank you. The Israelites, listen, before they exited, they were slaves. That's the problem. They were oppressed. They were treated meanly. They were the workforce for an entire country and a guy named what? Pharaoh. They were treated cruel for 400 years. They were enslaved. Yet, they knew that they had a covenant. You know what a covenant is? It's a promise. God had made them a promise. It went something like this. To you and your descendants, I will give all these lands. That's a pretty good promise. Unless you're the one in 400 years of slavery. You're thinking, God obviously has some redemptive story, but I guess it hadn't gotten down to me yet. And so they began to pray and pray and pray for a redeemer, a rescuer, and God sent one. Do you know what his name was? I know you want to say Jesus because that is coming later, but in this point in the story, who did God send? I'll give you a hint. Burning bush. Moses. That was right. God sent Moses to bring them out. God was redeeming them, and he was using somebody to do it. So he sends these 10 signs, these miracles, to convince the Pharaoh to what? Let my people go. Thank you. You got to sing it like that. And they finally did. He finally let them out. I'm going quick. They finally let him out. They exited Egypt, and they took off through the land. And you know they were feeling pretty good about that. Some of my 10-plus year believers, God just gives you something, you start feeling good about it. You're like, man, this is going good. That redemptive promise, my salvation, I'm starting to get why he did what he did. God is bringing them out of slavery. Has God brought any of you out of something like that? Bondage, slavery, lies you believed, and you start to believe the truth. And you're like, yes, man, this is good. Because those people back there, they hated us. They wanted to kill us. Literally. And then, God, you sent somebody, and he rescues us out of this land that wasn't ours, and you're taking us, I suppose, to the land that is ours, because you made a promise. You had a redemptive plan for our problem, and it was to give us all the land, and all our descendants will have it, and they start high-fiving, I'm sure. And then he even said, just in case they got lost, he gave them a cloud to follow during the day. Not like a rain cloud, but like a God cloud. That's cool. Some of you might be like, what if they walked at night? Mr. Smarty Pants. Fire by night. It's like God's GPS. Turn left at the reed. I don't know. Like, he tells you what to do. And they start to get excited. I would too. I'd be getting totally excited. I'd be like, we're going to be the generation that goes into the promised land. Hey, can I just tell you, we've been praying for revival ever since I've been a pastor at this church, and I'm like, I think this might be it. I think this might be it. And so I'm up here, I'm actually this is just between me and you. I'm actually pretty nervous right now up here. I don't get nervous on Sunday mornings. I don't get nervous when I preach chapels. I get nervous when I speak to this group because I'm like, this could be the one. That sees the fire, that sees the cloud, starts high-fiving each other and says, guys, we're it. We're ushering in a new day. And you start feeling good about it, as you should. And you start saying things like, we did it. We got excited. Because all these promises they've been reading about their whole life, and maybe some of you have been going to Keystone your whole life. You're like, we've been hearing about revival our whole life. And you start to get a little scent of it. It's here. But then, guess what happened? Mr. Pharaoh, he also had a problem. He started to have a little let my people go remorse. leader, Pharaoh, right? He changed his mind. You ever had somebody change their mind? They tell you one thing and then they come back and tell you another thing? And they had a lot of power over you. They could do some real damage to you. And you're like, but you promised, man. Yeah, I know I did, but I'm starting to remember that the Israelites, they're my workforce. They're my millions of people that build all my Egyptian stuff. Pyramids, sphinxes. I don't know if they really built that. It just feels right, so I said it. But like that's them. That's them, those obelisk tower thing. They build those, right? And I don't want them to go. And so he's like regretting letting those people go. And so he's like, man, listen, I miss them. I want them back. And this is a guy that's already proven he can't make decisions. Like some of you break up with your boyfriend, girlfriend, get back together, break up. You got nothing on Pharaoh, okay? Like literally, frogs were jumping and locusts, and he was like, okay, let him go. Frogs, okay, I changed my mind. Like, no, this guy would have been terrible. And so he sends the greatest fighting force that we know of historically at the time, he sends them out to get them back. And I don't know if you guys have caught on to here, but they've been following a cloud and fire and camping. Okay, basically camping. You guys ever been camping? Okay, you had more in your backpack than they had for like your one-night jaunt to Hawkeye's Nest or some place that's called that, you know? And so he sends full-on chariots, armament, horses, people riding horses, people running with the whole army goes after them, and Egypt has tanks, and they got nothing. Now, remember just a few minutes ago, what were they doing? They were high-fiving, they were strutting, had a little swagger. And now one of them spots the dust collecting, because, it's a desert, spots the dust way off in the distance. He's like, that's funny. That's weird. I thought we were the only ones out here. You ever do that? That's weird. They're getting closer. Hey, Moses, you might want to come take a look at this. I think that's the army. I remember them. That's the guy that used to hit me. They're getting closer. There's a lot of them. Wake up, right? And it says in Exodus 14, it says, when Pharaoh drew near, the people of Israel lifted up their eyes, and behold, the Egyptians were marching after them, and they feared greatly. Yeah, and the people of Israel cried out to the Lord. They said to Moses, is it because there were no graves in Egypt that you've taken us away to die in the wilderness? Which is like, that's really harsh. Like, what? That's what you're coming at him with? This is a tough group, man. What have you done to us, bringing us out of Egypt? Is not this what we said to you in Egypt? Leave us alone so we can serve the Egyptians. Our old way was better. The old way was you got beat and oppressed, and they didn't feed you, and if you didn't do your work, they killed you. That's better? My 10-year plus crew, do you ever think like that? Hey, listen, God, why did you do that to me? You ever said that? Hey, I got problems, and you know what? I think I was just better off doing it the way I used to do it. Take me back to bondage. At least I knew what was what. That's what they're saying. I mean, God brought you out of total bondage for them and a lot of you. God brought you out of total bondage. He took you from dead to alive, and then you're just like, you know what, though? This is awful. I want to go back. You ever do that? I've seen people who have walked with God for years, and then one little thing, one little moment doesn't go the way they think it was, and they begin to question their whole faith. Who do you think's behind that? Or how about this? You're convicted. Maybe you're here tonight. You're not a Jesus follower, and I'm so glad you're here. I really am. I really am. Even if you're the guy I made fun of, I didn't know that. I probably wouldn't have done that if I'd known that. But, I'm glad you're here. And you might be being convicted of sin, and you've been around enough Christians to know, they got something, I'm interested in that. But then, the least little thing, oh, but I didn't really like the game that church played, so therefore, God must not be real. That seems silly, but we do that. The Israelites, they prayed for years that God would send a deliverer, and then he did. And maybe some of you're praying right now that God would send someone, and he is. Will you believe him? I once knocked on a person's door, like that, except it was a door, and I was going door to door sharing evangelism. I don't do that much anymore because I'm afraid somebody will punch me in the face. But I was knocking on doors, right? And I was with three other guys. And this lady answered the door. I don't know what she was thinking, but I know we were ready. And she said, what are you guys here for? And we said, I don't remember what we said, but we got to the point pretty quick. We were like, hey, if you died tonight, do you know where you'd go when you die? Heaven or hell? We shot her straight, right? She looked like she was in a hurry. And she put her hand over her mouth, I kid you not, and went, oh my goodness, I can't believe you're here. And we're like, well, we're part of a class, and we're actually not going to everybody. We totally didn't even want to do it, I'll be honest with you. And we're standing there, and I was like, wow, this girl, I'm thinking, this girl's going to get saved on the doorstep. I hadn't seen that happen before. I've been a part of it before. She's like, you guys aren't going to believe this. I was like, try me. She said, this morning on my way to work, somebody said something to me a couple days ago. And so this morning on the way to work, I was thinking about God, and I was praying about God. And I said, God, if you're real, send someone to explain to me what you're all about. Who thinks that's awesome? Now, oh, no. Would you believe she didn't get saved that day? Yeah, man. We were pretty disappointed too. So when she told us that, I said, oh my gosh, God has answered your prayer. We know how to explain that to you. And she was like, nah, I think I'll just wait. Do you think she spent all that time under conviction? But something happened between the car ride and the door knock that she was like, well, this isn't for me. The way I'm doing it is better. Maybe some of you right now, you've been praying for a rescuer. You've been praying for a redeemer. God is showing you one. But you're so worried seeing the dust in the distance that you will pay no attention to him. I think I'll just wait. I'll give it another week. God has a plan for your problem. Believe that? And Moses said to the people, fear not, stand firm. Read that with me. Fear not, stand firm, and see the salvation of the Lord, which he will work for you when? Today. Do you think that God would bring you to that point to watch you get mowed down by those chariots? God has a plan for your problem. For the Egyptians whom you see today, you shall never see again. Why do you think he said that? You know what? Their real problem, yes, it's the Egyptians, but the real problem is fear. Fear that their old life is going to catch up with them. You ever worry about your old life catching up with you? Hey, what am I going to do when they find out? What am I going to do when they discover? So you have this fear and faith, they are mutually exclusive, which is a fancy way of saying they don't get along. They can't be in the same room together. And if you have faith, you will not have fear. And some of you do not believe me on that. I get it. So what God's saying is, stop it. Don't be afraid. Meditate on God. You know what us big kids do sometimes? We'll go to meditate on God in the Bible. We'll read the Bible, and then the enemy will say, oh, did you see what was on the news? And we'll begin meditating on the things that we're thinking about and the evil in the world, and we'll completely forget that the God of the universe wants to speak to us. You guys have a version of that too. I'm not 16. I don't know what your version is. I just know you have it. So God says for everybody, stop it. Don't be afraid. Don't fear. Stand still, he says. See that salvation of the Lord will be accomplished when? Today. And the Egyptians that you see off in the distance that you're really concerned about, you will never see them again forever. You guys believe that about your past? Do you believe that God could take you from dead to alive and you will never see it again? Ever, ever, ever. In 10 years, when you're standing up in 10 years, because some guy like me says, stand up, you can say, I got problems, but I know what to do with them. God often says, be still. Stop it. Then he says in verse 14, the Lord will what? Is it up there? The Lord will fight for you. And what do you got to do? You got to do nothing. You got to be silent. You say, that sounds great, but you forgot the first part of the story because you didn't mention a little fact there a moment ago. When they saw the army, it wasn't like they had 500 paved miles in front of them. No, what do they have in front of them? They had the Red Sea in front of them. That may not mean much to you guys. You may not study seas, but you've seen the ocean. Anybody ever seen the ocean? Excuse me, the shore. Matt, have you seen the shore? Jersey Shore, right? Do you think that if you were standing, like if this is the Jersey Shore right here, there's some people from Jersey here, this makes sense. If you were standing and the Jersey Shore, the ocean was ahead of you, which ocean is that, by the way? Come on, kids, let's get that right. Yeah, Atlantic Ocean. All right, if you were looking out over that ocean and you're like, wow, big ocean, I'm thinking we don't have boats, I don't see any water wings, well, how are we going to get across this, right? No problem, guys, we'll just go this way or that way. No, you're not going to do that either. Mountains. And nobody brought their alpine gear. So you've got the Egyptian Navy SEALs running at you from behind. You've got an ocean in front of you. And you've got mountains on your left and right. And no weapons. We got some clubs. They got chariots. And they start saying, there's no way out of this. That's why they said, wasn't there graves back in Egypt? Why would you bring us all the way out here just to have us get killed at the shore? They were encamped there. Big ocean, right? They can't turn around. They can't go back. Mountains all around them. No way out. No more moves. You might call this checkmate. You guys ever play chess? Got any chess people in here? Oh, yeah, chess. That's a chess term, isn't it? Checkmate. You know what checkmate means? It's a Persian word from about this time period. A little later than this. It means freeze the king. Freeze the king. You put the king in check. Also means kill the king. Means king can't do anything else. You do everything in your power to keep the king from moving, and guess what? You win the game. Checkmate. It's a game. Strategy, thinking. Gary Kasparov was a great chess player. That Magnus guy, I can never remember his last name. Brad Steiger amongst them. Like all these chess players, right? And your whole objective, no matter what move you move, is to take down the what? The king. Sometimes you got to sacrifice a piece. Sometimes if you're me, I'm not sacrificing, I'm just blundering. But that's what happens. You get it to where the king can no longer move. And these people have a problem. A checkmate problem. I just say right here, I had the 10-plus year believers stand up a moment ago for a lot of reasons. Here's why. All through biblical history, all through the Bible and life, we see good men and women totally redeemed, that get themselves into checkmate situations. Am I right? But we also see all sorts of people that do not believe. They do not follow Jesus. And they believe that they're in a checkmate situation as well. They get stuck on something and they think, I got no more moves. I can't get out of this. There are people probably in here right now that would say, yeah, man, if me and you were to talk, that's probably what I would tell you. I've done something, I've thought something, I've seen something, that it's checkmate for me. There's no way God can pull me back from that. There's no more moves. No way out. And what you need to do, just like the rest of us, you need to hear from the Lord, but what you have fallen for is hearing from the liar. And you've heard from the liar that says, let's just stay that way. Or you know what, let's not even work on that anymore. Even if somebody knocks on your door and wants to tell you the exact thing you wanted to hear that can't possibly be real. Or you know, some of you might think it like this, Mark, you seem like a nice guy, but I'm too deep into this. I'm like 9 levels deep. I'm way down the rabbit hole. I can't come back from it. This is a checkmate for me. You might even say, I know it's wrong. Whatever. I know I'm not supposed to be doing it. But the truth is, I kind of like it. So I'm just going to keep doing it. And you believe that you've done something that you can never come back from. You believe you're in this like checkmate situation where you think, I've really messed up my life. It's checkmate. And let me tell you, God is showing me about that right now. He is saying, be still and remember who God is. Now, I love the analogy of checkmate. I like chess. I'm not very good at it, but I like it. But when I was thinking through this message and this story came to mind about a painting. And don't show the painting yet, because I want to tell you about it a little bit first. There was a guy, I first heard this story by a preacher named Billy Graham. You guys ever heard of Billy Graham? I don't expect a lot of you have. He's a little old school. Billy Graham was popular in the 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s, the 2000s, and then he passed away. Anybody want to guess what decade I was in the youth group out of that? 90s, baby. Come on. Booyah, right? Nobody? Come on. Can I get a booyah from a 90s kid? Thank you. All right. I never actually said that in the 90s, but I looked up today that people did. And so he tells this story about a painting. Billy Graham tells this story about a painting. Here's the painting. And in this painting, it's called Checkmate. You can see it. Let me get out of the way. You can see this painting. It's two guys. What are they playing? Chess. The guy there is the devil, and then there's just the guy, right? Not devil. And they're playing, and in the painting, the man playing chess with the devil, and the devil is happy about it. He's doing that pose that would have won you a gift card earlier. And he is saying, basically, you're beat, checkmate. You can't get out of this. This is where the Israelites were. This is where a lot of you are right now. I'm beat. The devil has me. I can't get out of it. And the story goes like this, and I don't even care if it's true. These two guys go to the Louvre, where this is. It's in Paris, France. And they're walking around, and they're speaking, and they're looking, and they come upon this painting, and they look at it for a few minutes, and the guy's like, let's go. And the other guy's like, no, I want to look at this for a second more. Turns out, he is an international chess champion. The other guy walks off, and he's looking at this painting, and he's studying it, and he's looking at it, and he's looking at it, and he's looking at it. And then all of a sudden, he stops, and he goes, oh, my goodness, this painting's wrong. He says, somebody needs to call the curator. This painting's wrong. This painting's wrong. The king has one more move. And can I just tell you, you're wrong. You think that this is your life, that the devil has you, and all he's got to do is flick the king over. That's how I do it when I beat somebody. The king has one more move. The king has one more move. It's not checkmate. It's not over. The king has one more move. And just when you think it's over, I'm telling you, the king has one more move. Just when you think you got nowhere else to go, the king has one more move. The king can get you out of everything. Jesus isn't done. Sometimes the move is to step back from the pole mark. Sometimes it is. So what do you think these Israelites, they didn't play chess. I don't think it was done for a couple hundred more years. You know they're thinking, we need one more move, but we got nothing. This is a no way out. This is a we're all going to die situation. What does God do? What does the king do? Well, let me tell you. The Lord said to Moses, why do you cry for me? Tell the people of Israel to go forward. Pardon me, Captain, but the forward motion is where the ocean is. And I don't know how to swim. They did not teach us that back in bondage. You know, bondage school was pretty light. And that was not part of it. He says, lift up your staff and stretch out your hand over the sea and divide it, that the people of Israel may go through the sea on dry ground. I don't know if you guys are catching what's going on here, but he says, lift up your staff. I'm going to take that sea, and I'm going to part it in the middle, and it's not even going to be muddy. And you're going to walk right through the middle. You tell me the king doesn't have one more move in your life. That's how we're going to do it. Yeah, okay, well, what about them? Because they're hot on our heels here. Yeah, I know that. They're going to come in after you guys are safely across, and again, guess what I'm going to do? Oof. That's a booyah moment if you grew up in the 90s right there. The Israelites move forward. The sea parts. They get across. The army goes in with all their chariots and awesome weapons, and boom! Gone. Never saw them again. That old life, gone. Don't ever think that the king is out of moves. The king always has one more move. The lie for you is that you need to listen to the Lord because he has a move for you. It may be as simple as step back. It might be as big as you need to move forward. I'm convinced that they had to put their feet a little bit in the water before he parted. They had to whoop, they just got to kind of activate that. But some of you are believing this lie that all of this is for somebody else. All of this is coincidence. All of this is just part of a bunch of lies that you've been believing for so long that you've begun to think that that's just the way it is. And let me tell you, your painting is wrong. Your painting is wrong. The king has one more move. Hell thinks it had Jesus beat once. You know that, right? In that little strategy game that the devil was running against us, he thought he had Jesus beat, the true king. Satan, he orchestrated Jesus' murder. I don't think that you believe that just happened coincidentally. He's like, man, look at this. I'm going to orchestrate his arrest. And then I'm going to orchestrate his torture. And then I'm going to orchestrate putting him on a cross. And then I'm going to orchestrate his murder. And then I'm going to orchestrate him being buried. The king is dead. And that felt like checkmate. That felt like we're done. But the king had one more move. The cross was the move. Jesus was the king. Jesus didn't stay dead. Jesus climbed out of the grave. When everything looked lost, he said, I got one more move. I got one more play. And it's going to change everything. And we've been working off that move forever because God has a plan for your problem. You think Jesus had a problem? Yeah, he had a problem. He was dead. That's a problem. Dead's a problem, guys. I don't know if you know that. He was so dead that they buried him. And everybody's like, this is a big problem. I don't know how we're going to get over this. Well, I know how we're going to get over it. The king's got one more move. Dead's not a problem to him. He is the answer to your problem. He said, what's his plan for my problem? It's Jesus. Jesus is the plan. He is the plan. Listen, Ephesians 2:1, it says you were dead. Remember that? Yeah. Notice it says who was dead? You. We're dead. That's checkmate. I don't know. It's a big problem. If you're dead, the king's got one more move. You say, well, what's my problem? I was dead. What was I dead with? My sin. My sin made me dead. Bad. That's a problem. You may be sitting here thinking, well, I'm not that bad. Okay, I get it. You're probably not. You're super moral. That's great. Are you perfect, though? Because this is what God requires, unfortunately. And that makes you dead. Let me put it like this. You think that your good works, right? That's what Ephesians said. I'm going to try so hard. I'm going to overcome it. You're not going to overcome it. I'm going to try to cover it. I'm going to mask it. I'm going to do all those things I promised God I would do, right? And you think you can mask your death. Can you fake alive if you're dead? You cannot. It'd be like, I don't know, do you ever eat leftovers out of your fridge? You get those little containers, and you're like, I don't even remember when we got that at our house. But I liked it. I remember liking it. And it's late at night, and Mom's not up to tell me not to eat it. And probably Dad put it there, and I trust him with food. And so you kind of get it, and you open it up, that little white container. Oh, you smell it. You're like, good grief, wow, woo. Like just kind of scrape back the fungus on it. And you're like, wow, that's, you know what? It's sriracha. You just drench it, right? Woo, and you mix it in, and you eat that. And you think, I have covered the death in there with wonderful red chili paste. What happens to you? You die, right? You die. You want to die. Blah, you're throwing up. It's going around. Wash your hands, I get that. You think you can mask your death with good works. You can't cover it up. You got a dead problem. And the enemy wants nothing more than you to stay that way. But guess what? Your problem isn't a checkmate for you. Because verse 4 says, but God being rich in mercy because of the great love with which he loved us with, even when he saved me. It looks like you're helpless, but you're not hopeless. Salvation is not some cold formula you read in a book or memorize. It is that Jesus took my place. He was my move. I heard this, and worship team, you can come on up because we're going to pray and then we'll be finished. I heard this. It says, you may have heard salvation, redemption, described something like this, like you were drowning in a sea of your own sin, and Jesus came by in a boat, and he threw the life vest out to you, and he pulled you on board, and he saved you. And that sounds really good, but that is not the gospel. Here's the gospel. The gospel is that you weren't just drowning in your sin. You were dead. Checkmate. No more moves. And Jesus came and pulled your lifeless body out of the water and breathed life into you and made you a new creation. That is the gospel. That is why we do it. Redeemed doesn't mean God made you better. It means he made you alive. You have a dead problem. It's not checkmate. King has one more move. So I want to speak to you very clearly. Let's just go ahead and start praying. Let's bow our eyes and close our heads, right? Come on. Some of you said, I got problems. Jesus got answers. Some of you say, I've been trying to do this whole thing on my own. Here's the great news. The Bible says if you confess with your mouth, believe in your heart, Jesus is Lord, he will save you. What do I need to confess? You need to confess your sin. That's your problem. You need to confess your sin. It says if anyone is in Christ, he's a new creation. The old is gone. You will never see that again. You know you need forgiveness. You know you need a fresh start. And today is the day, I think, for some of you need to turn from your sin. Maybe just like in the story of the Hebrews there, the Israelites. Maybe God is telling you, you need to move forward. Maybe some of you need to give your life to Jesus tonight. I know it's the first night. I wanted to speak the first night. I wanted this slot. Because I think some of you tonight, you don't want to mess around anymore. You don't want to wait around anymore. You want to give your life to Jesus Christ right now. Because you need one more move, and he's it. I don't ever want to manipulate a group, but here's what I'm going to say. If that's you, and you say, yeah, I want to. I believe God loves action. I believe he loves steps. We got a lot of space up here, so I'll just ask you, if you want to give your life to Jesus, I'm going to ask you to stand up and move forward. Stand up and move forward. That's what we're going to do. If that's you tonight. You say, I got no way out. My life is in checkmate. If I don't do this, it's over. Stand up, move forward. There's other things you can do tonight too. We've probably got a lot of people that are saying, man, oh man, I was hoping we would pray that, I'm already a believer, but I feel like I got problems too. Will you pray for me? Yes, I will. Yes, I will. Those of you on this first night that are saying, I'm ready to give it all over. I'm out of moves. Stand up and move forward. You will see the sea part before you. Those of you who are here and you're in that crew that I've been a Jesus follower a long time, or maybe a week. I don't know. I got to lead somebody to Christ 2 days ago. They might be here. I don't know. See, I got problems. I'm spending a lot of my life looking over my shoulder watching the Israelites or watching the Egyptians run me down. And so I would just ask, if that's you, you just put your hands up and you just surrender to God. You say, God, show me your move. Show me your move. Maybe it's a step back. Maybe it's a move forward. But I will move where you have me move. Guys, thank you so much.